Chamara dulabo kaberi mukha chandra Gatiya mala tirmala Dibodo har gale Adare tule adibo karpura tambule Lalita Vishakha Adi Jata Sakhe Vrinda Agyaya Korebo Seva Charanaravinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Dasa Nudas Seva Bilasha Kore Narottama Das Radha Krishna Prana Mora Jugala Kishore Radha Krishna Prana Mora Jugala Kishore Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Shri Radhe. Jaya Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janvalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janvalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna tire vanachari. Yamuna tire vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jagannathai Jagannathai Baladevai Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Shri Radha. Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parijacharya Stotar Shri Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Hare all glories to Śrīla. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayashva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Canto 6, chapter 31. Narada instructs the Prachetas, verse 11. Shrutena tapasa vakim Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunnaya Buddhaya vakim nipunnaya Balendriya radhasaha Balendriya radhasaha Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhaya vakim nipunaya Balendriya radhasaha Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunaya Balendriya radhasaha. Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunyaya Balanendriya radhasaha Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunaya Balanendriya radhasaha. Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunaya Balanendriya radhasaha. Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunaya Balanendriya radhasaha. Shrutena tapasa vakim Vachobhischitta vrittibhi Buddhya vakim nipunaya Balanendriya radhasaha. Shrutena, by Vedic education. Tapasa, by austerity. Va, or kim, what is the meaning? Vachobhi, by words. Chitta, of consciousness. Vrittibhi, by the occupations. Buddhya, by intelligence. Va, or kim, what is the use? Nipunaya, expert. Balena, by bodily strength. Indriya radhasa, by power of the senses. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? Please repeat. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerities, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? Purport. From the Upanishads, Mukunda Upanishad 3.2.3, we learn, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo Na Medhya Na Bhuna Shrutena Yam Evaisha Vrunute Tena Labhyas Tasya Isha Atma Vivurunute Tanum Swam. Our relationship with the Supreme Lord is never advanced by simple study of the Vedas. There are many Mayavadi sannyasis fully engaged in studying the Vedas, Vedanta Sutra and Upanishads, but unfortunately they cannot grasp the real essence of knowledge. In other words, they do not know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then is the use in studying all the Vedas if one cannot grasp the essence of the Vedas? Krishna. The Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedesa sarver aham eva vedya. By all the Vedas I am to be known. There are many religious systems wherein penance and austerities are greatly stressed, but at the end no one understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is therefore no point in such penance, tapasya. If one has actually approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not need to undergo severe austerities. This is very important to understand, that if one has actually approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not need to undergo severe austerities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood by the process of devotional service. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Raja Guhyam, the king of all confidential knowledge. There are many good reciters of Vedic literature, and they recite works such as Ramayana, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes these professional readers manifest very good scholarship and exhibit word jugglery. Unfortunately, they are never devotees of the Supreme Lord. Consequently, they cannot impress upon the audience the real essence of knowledge, which is Krishna. There are also many thoughtful writers and creative philosophers, but despite all their learning, if they cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are simply useless mental speculators. There are many sharply intelligent people in this material world, and they discover so many things for the sense gratification. They also analytically study all the material elements, but despite their expert knowledge and expert scientific analysis of the whole cosmic manifestation, their endeavors are useless because they cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as our senses are concerned, there are many animals, both beasts and birds, who are very expert in exercising their senses more keenly than human beings. For example, vultures and hawks can go very high in the sky, but can see a small body on the ground very, very clearly. This means that their eyesight is so keen that they can find an eatable corpse from a great distance. Certainly their eyesight is much keener than human beings. But this does not mean that their existence is more important than that of the human beings. Similarly, dogs can smell many things from far distance. Many fishes can understand the power of sound that an enemy is coming. All these examples are described in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. If one's senses cannot help him attain the highest perfection of life, realization of the Supreme, they are all useless. Without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerity, the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? Om Agnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataro Vesha Kripa Sindhu Vecha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, beautiful verse and the purport where Srila Prabhupada is explaining how the things which everyone is seeking for in the material world, what is it? Severe austerities, the power of the process of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. Everyone is trying to, actually, it's mentioned severe austerities. How do we understand severe austerities? Like, if you look at a lifestyle of a materialist person, what does he do? He's earning so hard, he's working so hard. And if you go for interview or if you go for annually reviews that happen in the companies, they ask you how hard have you worked. So this is in a nutshell. They don't tell you directly, are you working like a dog or a donkey? No, they won't ask you like that. But the gist is, how hard are you working? Are you they say, are you burning the midnight oil? What does that mean? Are you really working hard? You are really putting in more hours than that you are paid for. So this is the whole propaganda. Like in the material life, everyone is trying to extract as much as he can from the other person. So everyone is expected to work hard. And severe austerities are to be performed. And for what? And so that people can, the process of hearing, they can satisfy their senses. They can hear nice things. And what is that nice things? Boss will tell you, wow, you have done a great job last year. You are one of the best employees. Just to hear that, people work hard. And then at the end, they will say, but this year we had a coronavirus and we did not do well financially, so we cannot give you any appraisal. The situations are rough this year, or there is always competition, which was there last year, and before that there was some other problem. So there is always some or the other problem. Every year, in the whole year, there is at least one quarter which is not so good. And they will take that quarter and say, this year we did not make enough, so we cannot give you pay rise, but you did a very good job. So just to hear the glories of oneself, one is putting in all this austerity, the process of the severe austerities. The power of speech, it is mentioned. What is the use of power of speech? You might be able to speak so many things. You might be able to give so much guidance, or so much information is there within you which you can give. But what is the use? The power of mental speculation. People are really speculative. If you go, especially I was hearing one of the classes, and it is mentioned that in India, everyone is a doctor, every time is a tea time, and every place is a toilet. So Maharaj was just commenting on this. Like, there are people who will give you advice. Even if you have just a little bit of cough or cold, people will, oh, did you take this or did you take this? And you will have 10 different medicines just for a simple thing. And so people like to give advice. People like to speculate. Elevated intelligence. People like to have this elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses. And why do they need all these things? So that they can enjoy. They can enjoy in this material world. But unfortunately, this is not the place to enjoy. Krishna has already mentioned, right? This is dukkhalayam asashvatam. This is a place of misery, suffering. Even though we try to make all the plans We have protected ourselves with all the insurances. We have protected ourselves with good bank balance. We have protected ourselves with good house, good job, good family. Everything is there. But suddenly one day, something changes. And you realize that this place is not so good. Okay, so Prabhupada is mentioning here that the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedesha sarvar ahame vedya. By all this knowledge, what is to be known? It is to be, Krishna is to be known. And people have got all these things. What is the use? Kunti Maharani prays to Krishna in 1:8-26. Janmaishwara shruta shibir idamana madapuma naivarati abhidatum vai tvam akinchana gocharam. So actually all these things are in fact the bondage. They are the roadblocks to our devotion. As it is mentioned in this verse, without devotional service, everything, all these things, all the material qualities are useless. They are like many zeros, but devotional service is the one. If you don't have one in front of unlimited zeros you might have, the zeros are useless. So the devotional service has to be there. It is the goal of all the, it is the purpose of our life, human life. So as Kunti Maharani is praying, Janma Ishvara, one may have high parentage. Aishvara, one may have a lot of wealth. Shruta, one may have high education. And Shribir, one may be very beautiful. But what happens at the end? If you don't have devotional service, then all this is just a Shrama evahi kevalam, dharma svanustita pumsam vishwakshana kathasuya, na utpade yadi ratim shram evahi kevalam. Our occupational duties, dharma, whatever duties we are performing, if it does not invoke the affinity to hear the message of Vishwakshena, Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it is Shrama evahi kevalam. It is just useless labor. So one has to hear Uttama Sloka Vartaya. One has to have the affinity to hear the message of the Lord. And further, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood through the process of devotional service. It is only through devotional service one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the 9th chapter, Prabhupada is quoting that Bhagavad Gita. In the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is explained as Raja Guhyam. 9.2 mentions Rajavidya Rajguyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Prataksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukum Kartum Avyayam. Very important. It's Rajavidya. What is Rajavidya? King of knowledge. This knowledge is the king of knowledge, and it is Rajguhyam. It is the secret of all secrets. So usually, which is very precious, it is always hidden. It's not revealed. It's not given to everyone. But what is the process then to achieve that? It is Prataksha Vagamam Dharmyam. What does Prataksha mean? Individually you have to realize it. And then if you realize, and each individual will have a different realization of the same message. I was reading Srila Prabhupada's one of the interviews with the press reporter, and Srila Prabhupada was mentioning this Krishna consciousness, and there was a question answer. You do what austerities you do, and how do you practice? What are the practices that you go through? And Srila Prabhupada said, our practice is very simple. You just read Bhagavad Gita as it is, and you will realize God. It is that simple. And Prabhupada was just telling him, like, the process is very simple. It is not complicated. All you have to do is to submissively hear, give the oral reception to the message of God, and you will perfect your life. This is Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada was giving this simple formula that this Rajavidya, Rajguyam, it will be revealed to us. The knowledge, the spiritual knowledge is revealed to us. And it is interesting in the second canto, 9th chapter, when Brahma is mentioned. Brahma is doing tapasya. In that tapasya, the Lord personally appears in front of him and shakes hand with him. And Lord gives him the process. The Chatusloki is given in that 33, 34, 35, 36, right? So this Chatusloki is given. But before that, Lord says that Gnanam parama guhyam me yad vignanam samamvitam saha rahashyam tad angam cha grahanam gaditam maya. So he gives even the conclusive, like he's giving the purport or the essence of the 4 Chatusloki. He's saying, what are they? He's saying Gnanam. So he's going, what is mentioned in the Chatusloki is Gnanam. Gnanam means knowledge. And then he's saying, I'm going to speak about Vignanam, the realization. And then he's saying Sarahashyam. Sarahashyam means, and this is exactly the similar verse as what Krishna is saying in 9.2 as well. So it's a Guhyam. It's Sarahashyam. This knowledge is not, everyone will not be able to understand this knowledge. So Krishna is telling Lord Brahma that you go and expand on this knowledge. And Lord Brahma gave it to Narada Muni to expand on this knowledge, and Narada Muni gave it to Vyasadeva. So in that disciplic succession, we are getting Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, right? But it was expanded from this 4 Chatusloki, which is Saharahashyam, Krishna is saying. It is secret. It is only available to people who are having Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. One is a devotee or who is a friend of the Lord. Only to him it is revealed. And Tadangam. What is Tadangam? Tadangam is the process of devotional service. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is mentioned. So, Gnanam, Vignanam are the Sambandha Gnan. Saharasham is the Prayojana, that what is to be gained by practice of Abhidaya, which is Tadangam, devotional service. So, very similar verse to what Srila Prabhupada is quoting here. So, coming to the pastime, we will quickly summarize what has been happening here. So, we just went to the purport and little bit of the verse. So, we'll go through the pastime. So, here, till now, what has happened? Maharaj, Prachini Bari had 10 sons. And those 10 sons were known as the Prachetas. And the Prachetas were asked to go and marry so that to progenate, because this was one of the things the Prajapatis had to do. And we can understand this pastime must have occurred in Satyuga, at the beginning of the Yuga, because the amount of austerities they are doing for 10,000 years, and then they are enjoying the Grahastha life for 10,000 another 10,000 years, and then they are going to forest, renouncing. So this must have happened. And Prabhupada makes this point in one of the purports in the in this chapter, previous chapter. Prabhupada makes this point that this must have happened at the beginning of the creation, where these are all like Prajapatis. So they are performing austerity. They go into the lake where they have the darshan of Lord Shiva, and then they hear the glories, the song sung by Lord Shiva, and then they practice austerity for 10,000 years. And then they come back, and when they come back, it is mentioned like they see like the entire throne, because King Prachinabari has already left the kingdom. So their whole kingdom is surrounded by trees and bushes. So they become angry. And then by that anger, they burn the whole forest, burn all the trees. At that time, the trees, the head of the trees come and give Marisha, their daughter, in marriage to Prachetas. And by that daughter, they have the son named Daksha. And it is mentioned, he is the same Daksha who was previously born of Lord Brahma's mind. And then in this life, because he committed, and we heard this pastime at the beginning of 4th canto, like how Daksha had committed offense to Lord Shiva. And that is why he had to fall down. So in his last life, he was born from the mind. And in this life, he had to take birth from Prachetas, union of Prachetas and Marisha. And then he was engaged in the process of progeniting. And then Prachetas, after spending a long time in their Grahastha life, they are leaving the kingdom and trying to perform austerity. And in that process of performing austerity, they are doing a lot of austerity, physical austerity, yogasanas and pranayams and things like that. And then they meet Narada Muni. Where Narada Muni is, and this is where we are at, where they are meeting Narada Muni. And Narada Muni is glorifying the process of devotional service compared to the process of austerities. So it is mentioned that without realizing Krishna, one cannot make his life perfect. So one has to realize Krishna to make his life perfect in whatever ways the austerities we are performing. It's the purpose of austerity is to realize Krishna. So in this section there is a very nice description of how one should practice brahmacharya life in the beginning of one's life. And the whole purpose of brahmachari life is to study and to practice austerity. And then one has to enter grihastha life. One does not have to enter, but one can, as Devamrit Maharaj mentions many times in his lecture, like there are only a selected people who will remain brahmacharis. But most of it, because you see there are only few people who are specialized, doctors or specialized lawyers or something. So those specialized people are very few in number. But most of them in Kali Yuga, if you see, they will enter grihastha ashram. These days we see they don't even enter grihastha ashram. In fact, there is nothing like ashram. There was an interesting article I was reading. In Japan, and this is again one of the videos Devamrit Maharaj had shown on one of the retreats, like the rate of loneliness is the highest. It is 7th actually in the whole world. And they're trying, their biggest problem is not economic development, their biggest problem is not financial or any other. Of course, they're going through those things as well. But more than that, they're more worried of people dying of suicide. Suicidal rate is the highest. And the reason they discovered why they are doing that is because of loneliness. And there is a big article, if you put Japan loneliness, you'll get a big article that they have written. And there is an organization which is doing research, and they're saying most of the advanced countries, they're going through the same, like Norway, Spain, Britain, all these countries are Netherlands, they're all going through the same process. Their suicidal rate is increasing daily, and that is because of loneliness. So imagine, and most of the people are living single. They don't have any friends, they don't have any relatives, they don't see them. So what to speak of setting up ashram, grihastha ashram. And Japan has made a robot whom you can exchange your feelings and they communicate. So, and there was last year, there was a case which one of the girls had put in, and she wanted to marry that robot because he can understand her better than anyone else. So this is the situation where we are. So it's humorous, but it is sad. People are more lonely than ever. So that is why there is need of varnashram system that was set up in the Vedic society. But varnashram system itself is not devotional service, but it is the need. There is a need for varnashram system. So one can enter into the grihastha ashram, and then one enters into the vanaprastha ashram, where one performs austerities and devote himself, and then one enters the sannyasa ashram, which is prohibited in Kali Yuga, but still we have that facility where if one is completely surrendered onto the Lord, he can enter into that ashram. So the 2 points which are very common in all the 4 ashram are, first is austerity. So in whatever ashram you are, austerity is the key. Brahmachari might think the grihasthas are enjoying. The grihasthas might think the brahmacharis are enjoying. But actually both ashrams are the ashrams of austerity. They've got different problems, but the problems are there. It's not that one can have a big house or a car or a good family, a good job, everything is perfect. That means he does not have any problems. There are always problems. To maintain that is a big problem. So austerity is there. So the key is austerity in whatever ashram you are in. If you are not performing austerity in whatever ashram you are, it's not an ashram. You are degrading yourself. It is mentioned, a home is considered to be the dark well covered by grass. And if one falls into that well, he simply dies without anyone caring. So it's like a dark well. It's just covered by green grass. What happens if you step on and many times to catch an elephant, they do this. They dig a big pit, because it's not possible that you can just go into the forest and catch an elephant, right? you will be killed. So what do? They dig a big pit and they've covered it with the grass, layer of grass. And then they're playing all the drums and kettles, and the elephant is running towards that pit and he falls into the pit. And they leave the elephant there for few days. And when he's completely weak and helpless, at that time they bring him out, where he's not even able to stand, because after a few days of not eating, he's very weak. So this is the process of catching an elephant. So actually, sorry, what was the point that we were discussing there? Austerity is in ashram, yeah. So austerity has to be performed. In each and every ashram, the key is austerity. So what does austerity lead to? Detachment. So austerities lead to detachment. So the point we were talking about is, if in any ashram you are not performing austerity, your ashram, you are trying to enjoy the ashram, then it's really not an ashram. You are going towards the dark well which is covered with grass. That was the point we were discussing. So the first point is austerity, and austerity leads to detachment. And the second point, which is common in the grahastha, in the brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha and sannyas, in this varnashram system, is dependence on the Lord. So right from the beginning of brahmachari ashram, one is taught how you can be dependent on the Lord. Usually the brahmacharis don't have any wealth. They are not supposed to collect any wealth and keep, because they have to depend on the Lord. Of course, in Melbourne Mahaprabhu temple, we don't have to depend. Of course, we are dependent on the Lord, but we have got abundance of facilities here. Prasadam is in abundance. But many of the temples, they don't have such kind of, they have to wait for a particular time for prasadam, for the facilities. So this is one has to learn the dependence on the Lord right from in the brahmachari ashram. In grahastha ashram, one enters because one wants to exercise his free will. One is not so much dependent on the Lord. So he thinks, I can control, I can do it myself. Not really, but that's one of the back in the back there. So he enters a grahastha ashram, and then in grahastha ashram, what happens? He has facilities, paraphernalia, and then he has kids. And when he has kids, they teach him to be dependent, to become dependent on Lord. If you don't learn with one kid, you have got second kid who really teaches you. You have to be dependent, and if that does not happen, then the time will make you dependent on the Lord. So these are the two things which are common in all the ashrams. That first is austerity, which will lead to detachment, and the second is dependence on the Lord. And that, what happens when you become dependent on the Lord? That cultivates bhakti. So austerity leads to detachment, and dependence on the Lord cultivates bhakti. And what is bhakti? Sorry? Love of Krishna, yeah. So when one is more and more dependent on the Lord, he as it is mentioned in Sharanagati, right? He comes to, humility is developed, and then one surrenders onto the Lord. There is love of Godhead, which arises from dependence of the Lord. There was another nice article I read, which mentions how in the material life we measure success. At the time of birth, what happens? When a child is born, the first breathe is a success for the child. It is mentioned that when the child is born, I was reading what happens, and we saw one of the videos again. His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj showed one of the videos of right from the process, what happens when the development of the fetus in the womb of the mother through the birth and growth, what happens. So at the time of birth, the lungs of the child is filled with fluid, acid. And when he takes birth, the doctors make sure that all that fluid is come out of the lungs. It's coming out of the lungs and it's filled with air. If that does not happen, the child wouldn't survive. So sometimes the doctors, if the child is not crying or breathing properly, they put the finger or they put the tube into the lungs and pull out all the fluid from the lungs. But the natural process is, as soon as the child is born, he starts to breathe, because now he is into a different environment. Until now he was breathing. He was not breathing. His lungs were filled with fluid. And now he is breathing. So the first breathe is the success for the child at birth. When he's 1 year old, what is the success for a child? To walk without any support. So at the age of 1, if he can walk without support, you see he falls. And so usually at around 1 year old, child starts to walk. He falls few times, he crawls, and then again walks. So that is success. At the age of 4 years, what is success? To not use nappies. That is success. The biggest worry the mothers have is the cost of nappies. So to not urinate in pants is success for a 4-year-old child. For 8-year-old child, the success is to come home, go out and come home without forgetting the way. So that is the success for an 8-year-old child. For a 12-year-old child, the success is to have friends. So they're exploring, like he's entering into the teenage and he needs different friendship. So that is success, to have friends. At the age of 18, what is success? Driver's license. So to have driver's license at the age of 18 is success. One gets, the first thing one is dreaming, when I'll be 18 and I'll get my license. So that is success. At 23, the success is to pass the university degree. Come out of university as a graduate. That is success. At the age of 25, the success is to have a good job. At the age of 30, the success is to have a good partner. At 35, the success is to make money. If you are making good money every month, you're getting good salary, that is success. At 45, the success is to, and we have heard this midlife crisis, right? So at 45, the success is to still look like 25. So there is a sudden change between 40 and 45 that one goes through in his facial expressions and his vitality and everything. So when one day you look into the mirror, is it the same person that I was like few days ago? So there is a certain change, and one tries to hide everything. So at 45, the success is to appear young man. At 50, the success is to give good education to the children. At 55, the success is to do your duties well and still have the sane mind. To still be same, your mind is still working, because most of the things you start to forget at the age of 55. You have forgotten this, that, and you are not able to do your duties well. So to still have a sane mind and to perform your duties well is success. At 60, the success is to still have your driving license. Because at 60, most of the people have to go through the test and they are not able to see properly or judge the distance and not able to, so they lose their driving license. So at 60, the success is to keep your driving license, which started at 18. At 65, the success is to not have any diseases in life. At 70, the success is to not burden anyone with your daily routine needs. At 75, the success is to still have friends. Because when you are 75, most of the friends you had have disappeared. So they're gone. You feel lonely now. And most of the family members have also rejected you. So 81, the success is to come back home without forgetting your way, which you had at the age of 8. So 81 is the same thing. At 86, the success is to not urinate in your pants, and you don't need a nappy, which happened at 4. At 90, the success is to walk without any support, this which happened at the age of 1. And 95, the success is to still breathe. So most of the people are gone by 95, which started at the time of birth. So we see, when we see this, what do we understand? We start and end at the same point. We go through the same things. But if we have in between, we have not realized, we have not taken shelter of the Lord. When we are young, all these things are okay because we have got parents to look after us. But when you are growing old, you are no more attractive. The young child is very attractive. Everyone loves, everyone likes to play with the young child, 1 year old, 2 year old, people you like to play with. But 70, 80, 90, you don't like to because most of the things they speak does not make sense, right? At least, because there's a big gap. 80, 90-year-old, most of the people don't even remember who you are. I was going to one of the old age homes. There was someone who was there, and I had to go and visit, and devotee Mataji was there, and I had to visit that old age home. And most of the people in that old age home were like 90 plus, so really aged. And they don't even, even if you are going every day, they don't remember you that you have already come yesterday. What to speak of remembering me? The Mataji was there. She was not even able to remember that she had daughters and sons and she had a family. She couldn't remember anything. So for most of the people, it's like a new day every day. They don't even remember their name. If you ask them who you are, they wouldn't remember. What is my name? They won't remember. And the daily, whole day, what they do is, after breakfast, they give breakfast to all the old people, and then they bring, there is a big auditorium, kind of, in the center of the old age home, where there is a big, huge screen, and everyone is made to sit in that auditorium whole day. And some of them are urinating, some of them are passing stool, and it's a precarious condition, like a very sad condition. So people are made to sit there, but there is no one to talk because they themselves cannot talk. They've lost their abilities, they've lost their power of senses, speech, everything. So they're just sitting there and just watching the television. And some of them, like there are 3 televisions going on. You have choice of watching what you want. On one is cartoon going on. The second is some documentary going on. And third, some movie is going on. And interestingly, what old people like to see? Cartoons. Most of them are watching cartoon. It's amazing because the colors and all those things, even though I don't think they are understanding what is going on. But Tom and Jerry is going on. So this is the condition. If you have not taken shelter of the Lord, if you have not performed devotional service, as it is mentioned in this verse, without devotional service, what is the meaning of severe austerity, the power of hearing, the power of speech, the power of mental speculation, elevated intelligence, strength, and the power of the senses? So if you have not performed devotional service, if you have not taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, then at the end, we will be in this condition where we are just watching where we started from Tom and Jerry. So this is life. Life is a cycle. One has to be careful. And as it is mentioned, it is interesting, today is disappearance day of 2 great Acharyas, Gauridas Pandit and Srila Rupa Goswami. And if you see the life of these devotees, it is matching with whatever the verses we are going through, Narad Muni's teaching that is here. Gauridas Pandit, it is mentioned, I'll read a verse which is there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Gauridas Pandit yanra prema dhana bhakti, Krishna prema dite nite dhare mahashakti. Nityananda samarpila jati kula panthi, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda kari prana pati. So it is mentioned, Gauridas Pandit, the emblem of the most elevated devotional service in love of Godhead, had the greatest potency to receive and deliver such love. So he had a potency to give Krishna to anyone. Making Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda lords of his life, Gauridas Pandit sacrificed everything for the service of Lord Nityananda. So this is the glory of Gauridas Pandita. Gauridas Pandita and Prema Udhana Bhakti. So he had a power to give the love of Godhead, the Bhakti, to anyone who came across him. And Krishna Prema Dite Nite Dhare Mahashakti. He had a power. Nityananda Samarpila Jati Kula Panthi. So he would completely surrender to Lord Nityananda. It is mentioned Gauridas Pandit's elder brother, Suridas Sarkel, he had two daughters, Vasudha and Janva Mata, and they both were married to Nityananda Prabhu. So this is he had a family relationship with Nityananda Prabhu as well. And there are many pastimes where Lord Chaitanya liked Gauridas Pandit very much. They had very friendly relation, and of course, in Gona Deepika, it is mentioned Gauridas Pandit. Who is Gauridas Pandit? He is Subal. He is one of the 12 Gopas. So he is very close associate of Krishna in the spiritual world. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very close relationship with Gauridas Pandit. And it is mentioned like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once came from Shantipur to Ambika Kalna, where Gauridas Pandit was residing. And there is a very beautiful temple. All of you have been? Anyone who hasn't been? Ambika Kalna? It's the place one should go. It's a really beautiful place. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally, before he was going to take sannyas, he wanted to meet Gauridas Pandit. So from Shantipur he came to Ambika Kalna. And when he came to Ambika Kalna, Gauridas Pandit was living in one of the huts, and he went there. And he personally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had written on the palm leaf, he had written Bhagavad Gita on the palm leaf, and he personally gave that copy to Gauridas Pandit, which you can still see there. There is the copy of Bhagavad Gita written by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's beautiful, like when you see that. So that copy is still there, and you can still see that copy. And he came in a boat. So when he came in a boat, he had an oar with which he was driving the boat. So that oar also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave it to Gauridas Pandit, which you can still see there in the temple. And he told that whoever takes darshan of this oar and Bhagavad Gita will get love of Godhead. So we all can get love of Godhead if we go and see those things. And they are beautiful. That temple is also beautiful, and the deities are also beautiful, because there is a pastime of those deities. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed to Gauridas Pandit that now I am going to take sannyas and I am going to go out of Navdeep, I am not going to stay here. Gauridas Pandit said, okay, then you stay with me for some time. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed to that, and he stayed for a few days. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, and Nityananda Prabhu was also there. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu said, okay, now we have to leave, because I have to take sannyas and we have to leave to Puri. And at that time, Gauridas Pandit said, no, you cannot go. You have to still, I'm not satisfied yet. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, there is this neem tree outside your house. Why don't you carve the deities? And those deities will remain with you, and you can serve them, and they will reciprocate with you as I am reciprocating. And so the neem tree, there was a deities carved. 2 deities were carved, lifestyle deities were carved from that neem tree. Actually, for those who have not been, so those are the deities, sorry. So those are the deities carved from the neem tree. And they're so beautiful, not only beautiful, they're real deities. Like they walk, they talk, and we will hear what happens. So Gauridas Pandit carved these deities, and once these deities were carved, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, now we are leaving, and you can serve these deities. So Gauridas Pandit said, you said these are real deities, then let them go, you stay here. It's only if they are non-different than you, then they can do whatever you can do. So you stay here and let them go. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, so be it. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu went and stood on the altar, and the deities started walking. And Gauridas Pandit realized that like those Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who were real, they have become deities, and the deities are walking. So he caught the deities and brought them back. Said, no, you are cheating me. You both stay here and you both go. And those deities said, so be it. And they stood, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu started walking. So this happened for 24 times. And Gauridas Pandit is really confused. So Gauridas Pandit said, no, I want to test who is real and who is a deity. So what did Gauridas Pandit do? He checked all the features, the bodily features, by touching the nose and ears and feet and the bodily parts, and both were same. He couldn't find any fault in any of the deities or the real Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he said, okay, there is a second test which I'll do. You both have to eat prasadam, and I know how you eat prasadam. It's interesting, whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu used to come, the deities, this is later on, but we will finish this one. So, he served prasadam to all the four, two deities and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And they were eating at the same pace, the same way, everything was exactly same. And Gauridas Pandit said, okay, this is confusing. So he said, okay, let me massage your feet. I can feel the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very well. So he is massaging the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. And he still cannot make a difference who is the real deity and who is actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who is the deity and who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. So then he had to let one set go. They said, you have to let at least one of us go. And then he said, okay, you go because I'm cheated anyways. So, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu assured, like, whenever you reciprocate, the deities will reciprocate with you exactly as we are doing. So there is no difference between us and these deities which are carved of neem tree. So the deities, and Gauridas Pandit was serving these deities very nicely. Once Gauridas Pandit had a desire, because Gauridas Pandit is Subal Sakha, so he was meditating and he went into the Vrindavan pastimes and he's seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Krishna and Nityananda Prabhu as Balram. And actually they manifested the form of Krishna and Balram. So they had a flute in his hand, the peacock feather, and they were looking like blackish and whitish. So they actually manifested the Krishna Balram form in front of Gauridas Pandit. And then other time it is mentioned that every day Gauridas Pandit was preparing a beautiful, he was not very rich, but somehow he used to beg alms and prepared opulent feast. And then the deities one time told Gauridas Pandit, like, why are you preparing such an elaborate feast? It pains us when you work so hard and you go around the whole village and you prepare all this opulent feast. So anything simple is good for us. Just prepare something rice and saag. Saag is spinach. Just prepare rice and saag and we will be, rice, saag and dal, we will be satisfied with that. So Gauridas Pandit next day he prepared 52 varieties of rice and saag. And that was more elaborate than what he was doing before. And then Lord said, no, do whatever you were doing before. Rather than taking more pain, in fact we are giving you more pain, so just prepare whatever normal feast you used to prepare. So this is how Gauridas Pandit was reciprocating. Another time, Gauridas Pandit was dreaming, how can I'm such a poor person, how can I dress my deities, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, in opulent ornaments, and he was meditating on that. And next morning when he woke up, the Lord was having all those ornaments. And Gauridas Pandit was thinking, where did all these ornaments come from? This ruby and gold and diamonds, they were decorated with all those ornaments. So he was thinking in that way. So this is how Lord Chaitanya reciprocated with him. And then Gauridas Pandit had a disciple called Hridaya Chaitanya. So this disciple was, this Hridaya Chaitanya was very much surrendered to Gauridas Pandit. So Gauridas Pandit once said, okay, I'll go to Shantipur and have some work there. So you look after the deities and make sure you serve them very nicely. So Gauridas Pandit goes, and there was Gaur Purnima coming. So Hridaya Chaitanya understood, like, Gauridas Pandit usually celebrates Gaur Purnima on a big scale. So what did he do? He sent invitation to all the village and he started making big preparations. And when Gauridas Pandit came, he saw that there is a big feast being cooked, all these things are been happening, and Gauridas Pandit became very angry on Hridaya Chaitanya. He said, in my absence you are doing sense gratification. You have to live simply. Why are you making such a big feast? Get out of my house. You are a useless person. As soon as I have gone, you have started making all this big feast and you're doing sense gratification. But now Hridaya Chaitanya already had invited so many devotees and so many people from village in the name of Gauridas Pandit. So he did not want Gauridas Pandit to have a bad name. So he, at the outskirt of the village, he started preparing all the feast and invited all the guests and started Sankirtan. At that time, Gauridas Pandit went into the altar and opened the altar. The deities were not there. And Gauridas Pandit understood that the deities have gone to this festival which my disciple is having. So he immediately took a stick and ran after the Gaur-Nitai deities. And when he saw that, when Gaur-Nitai deities saw that Gauridas Pandit is coming with a stick and in a very angry mood, they ran. And when they ran, they were dancing in the Sankirtan which Hridaya Chaitanya was, at that time his name was Hridayananda. So Hridayananda had organized this feast. So these deities ran and entered into the heart of Hridayananda. And Gauridas Pandit saw this, that these deities have entered into the heart of my disciple. And he embraced the disciple Hridayananda and told, from today your name is Hridaya Chaitanya, not Hridayananda. Because Lord is residing in your heart. So you are Hridaya Chaitanya. So he then embraced Hridaya Chaitanya. There is another pastime where once Sachimata heard about the glories of these deities, that they are none different than her own son. So Sachimata came to Ambika Kalna to see the deities. And at that time, Gauridas Pandit thought, like, I should not allow Chaitanya to meet Sachimata. Because if they see Sachimata, they will go with Sachimata. So he said, no, I don't have any deities. And he did not allow Sachimata to see the deities. But then everyone who were there, they tried to convince Gauridas Pandit to allow Sachimata to see the deities, and then he allowed Sachimata to see the deities. And recently, 100 years ago, this pastimes happened about 500 years ago. Gauridas Pandit was there 500 years ago. But recently, even 100 years ago, there was a devotee, and his name was Bhagwan Das Babaji. He was a close friend of Jagannath Das Babaji. So he came to see these deities. And as soon as he saw the deities, he had so much of love and especially for the deities. And when he left, the deities also started walking with him. And all the pujaris and everyone had to go and catch the deities and bring them back to the altar. So from that day onwards, there is a pratha, they don't allow anyone to see the deities for more than couple of seconds. They just open the curtain and then immediately close the curtain. I'm not sure how did they take that photograph. But they don't even allow anyone to take photographs or anything. So they just open as they do in, I think, Bhaktivedanta temple, right? So they just open the deities, even Radharaman temple, they do. Like, they just open the temple, but this is even shorter than that, because the deities are famous for running away. So they just open the curtain and immediately close the curtain. You cannot even see them for about a minute or so. So in 10-15 seconds, they will close the curtain. So they don't allow anyone to see because the deities are so beautiful, and they know, like, anyone who sees the deity for a longer time, they will go into ecstasy and the deities will go away with them. So this is Gauridas Pandit, who is a Dvadasa Gopa, who is Subal Sakha in the spiritual world. And we are already over time. So we'll quickly, Srila Rupa Goswami will tell just one point. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, the two brothers, knew the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they were given 4 tasks. They should go to Vrindavan, excavate all the holy places of Vrindavan, install the deities and start deity worship in Vrindavan, write the Bhakti Sastra and preach devotional service. So these are the 4 tasks that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami. And we all are very fortunate to be Rupanugas. We are called Rupanugas, followers in the path of Rupa Goswami. I'll just mention one pastime. which is very nice. Rupa Goswami usually never used to sleep under the same tree twice. So they used to always travel, and they did not have much of possessions. They only had set of some books and loincloth they used to wear. But there was one place which is known as Ter Kadamba. I'm sure many of you must have gone there. So that place has got a lot of Kadamba trees. It's a forest of Kadamba trees, and there is a beautiful lake in the center. And that's a place where Krishna, while coming in the evening, he used to climb the Kadamba tree and call out each and every cow by name, and to go back to Nandigram. So while coming from the forest, Krishna used to... So that place, Rupa Goswami sat and wrote Nectar of Devotion. So it is mentioned when Rupa Goswami used to write the pastimes of the separation of Krishna and Radharani. At that time, all the Kadamba trees used to shed leaves. So they used to become like as it is in the winter here, right? All the leaves fell to the ground. So it was showing like when he was writing and narrating the pastimes of the separation of Radha and Krishna, even the trees were crying. So that's the effect of trees shedding all the leaves. And then when he used to write about the union of Radha and Krishna, at that time immediately the trees used to blossom with new leaves and flowers. So this was the effect of Srila Rupa Goswami even on the trees of Vrindavan. So imagine how powerful Rupa Goswami was. So, and he has given so much Nectar of Devotion instruction. Many books he has given us. So we'll stop here because we are already over time. Any questions, comments, corrections, please? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granth-raj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki jai. Oh,